Welcome to Backstage 421, the musicians only podcast, with your host, author, and music lover, Charles Campbell. Charles will have an awesome array of guests from many genres of music, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. By the way, Ray Mattis is the composer of this awesome intro music.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special hybrid edition of Backstage 421 / Horror 421, the podcast. The reason it's a hybrid edition is I have a good friend on today, and he does a lot of work in the horror genre, and he's also a musician. So I thought I would put him on both podcasts this go around. Welcome to the show today, Ray Mattis. I'm glad to have you.
I'm glad to be here.
Awesome, man. Well, it's been a minute since we talked last. You were on the music podcast last year. And, I just kind of want you to give new listeners, kind of an overview, get them up to speed on who you are and kind of an overview of what you've done. And then we'll get into a conversation.
Okay, quick overview. I got into music at a young age, learned to play guitar. That was my first instrument. And one day I decided to go to a convention out in Cleveland, Ohio, where I met one Henrik Couteau and got to talking to Henrik, my man. And I happened to bring a CD of mine out there that I recorded of just music of mine. And I've always been a huge horror fan, so my music was kind of horror music over hip hop beats. And I brought a CD out to him, and I gave it to him, not really thinking I'd ever hear from him, but much to my surprise, he got in touch with me and wanted me to do a couple shorts for him. So I did a couple shorts for him, and then that led to full-length feature films. And I've done quite a number of horror films for him, and even a Western.
Yeah,
So,
you do have quite the resume. I will tell you
yeah.
that. And listeners, some of you have heard Ray on two of our podcasts the last couple of years, but he has done an incredible amount of work on movies and television series, and I'm amazed at how much he has done and how much he has yet to do. And I'm saying that because today our good friend Henrik posted that he has copies of Jesse James Unchained available at henflix.com, and I wonder who did the music for that particular movie. Can you fill me in on that, Ray?
Yeah, that was outside my realm. Like I said, I was a horror music guy, and when this Western landed in my lap, I kind of had to reteach myself how to compose music for a Western. So that was a lot of fun. To this day, that's probably one of my favorite soundtracks that I've done for a feature film.
It's an
And I
excellent
have,
soundtrack. It is.
yeah,
And
thank you, thank you.
today I plucked my shells down to get a signed copy of the DVD. So Henrik, I'm waiting on it, man. I gotta pop it in the player. When I heard it was out, it was just a post on Facebook one day saying it was on Tubi, and I had no idea it was out, and so I watched
Yeah,
it. And you did a great job on the soundtrack.
thank you, thank you
Yeah,
very
it was
much.
an excellent job, and John Walking Stick Hambrick and Rachel Rildoffy were the stars of the movie, and they played very well off of one another. And
Yes, it did.
your music built, your music um was really kind of what pushed the film for me a little bit, because all the settings and just the way you were able to kind of blend things. I notice music, and you did an excellent job on that film. Just as you have in the others and the TV shows you've done. So
Thank you.
congrats.
Well, I have Henrik to thank for that. When I say that I didn't think that I'd hear from him, that's by no means no slight to him or his character. I just really thought that it was a
Yeah,
shot in the dark
you're the
bringing
horror movie guy.
yeah, bringing a CD to somebody that I never met. And
Oh, you're talking about when you met him. Okay, I
yeah,
got you.
when I met him, yeah, yeah. So I have him to thank. He kind of kickstarted this whole thing, or I'd still be recording little songs in my basement and not really going anyplace with them. But thanks to him, you know, Without him, I wouldn't have this interview. So a huge thanks to Henrik.
Well, you've been more than a contributor. You've been a collaborator, and I know he appreciates it. And we hear we feel your thumbprint every time a Weekly Spooky episode airs. So, guys, if you haven't listened to Weekly Spooky, go to weeklyspooky.com and subscribe. Ray did the music for that. Ray did the music for this podcast. So when you hear the opening intro of Backstage 421, Ray did that. So he is multi-talented.
Thank you.
Now, I do want to talk about something horror related, and it caught my eye when I looked at your t-shirt. Phantasm.
Yes.
So tell me, and we may have talked about this on the horror podcast. I can't remember. That's been 2 years ago. But are you a big fan of Phantasm? I have the box set that I'm looking at right now.
I am a huge fan of Phantasm. Huge fan of Phantasm. And not only am I a fan of the movie, I'm a fan of the music in that movie as well. The dun, 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 dun.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it, love it, love it. Because there's movies that I don't care for, but I really like the soundtrack, and vice versa. But that one hits a home run, with both of them. Yeah,
yeah.
love Phantasm.
I was in Walmart a couple years ago, and they had the box set on sale for like, I forget what it was, $15 or something. I said, I can't pass this up. And they had the neon green, glow in the dark covers and stuff.
Right,
And
right.
yeah. And I think my favorite was part 2.
Yep. Same here.
It really nice.
Yep.
Nice.
Same here. Yep.
So when were you first exposed to Phantasm? When did you first?
I was first exposed to Phantasm when I was about 15 years old, and I was up late one night, and on not on cable, it was actually on TV, so it was cut to hell. This movie was coming on, Phantasm, and I remember I was getting tired when this movie started, and I'm like, this looks like a horror movie. And I quick ran and grabbed the TV guide and looked it up, and sure as heck, it said that it was a horror movie and everything, and it caught my attention, and I woke me up, so to speak. And yeah, I remember being in the rec room and actually having to go up my stairs to go to bed, but I had to turn the lights off first.
Yeah.
And I remember like suddenly not feeling so comfortable being in the dark after watching that movie. And sure as heck, I bought it uncut as it was meant to be seen.
Right.
Really, really fell in love with it.
Yeah. Well, those little fucking evil Jawas, man. That's what I call them. Those things scared the shit out of me when I was a kid.
Right.
And that's all I could think about were Jawas when I saw those little fuckers. I was like, ah.
Yep.
But anyway.
I was, yeah. And the end of that movie, of the first film, Phantasm, when he looks in the mirror and sees the reflection of and the boy. Oh my God.
Yep.
I had to shut my closet that night. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, Ray, let's stay on the horror subject for a little bit.
Sure.
And again, audience, we may have talked about some of this stuff 2 years ago, but it was 2 freaking years ago, so we may rehash some stuff. So just deal with it; it'll be all right. When you were coming up as a kid, what were some of your favorite horror films, and what drove you into horror? And I know we've talked about this before, but I'm going to rehash it and maybe dive into some of the horror movies that you enjoyed and I enjoyed, and kind of bounce those off each other.
My first kind of foray into horror movies, I was I was an only child for the first, oh boy, 14, 15 years of my life. But I was surrounded by older cousins, so I was always kind of the rugrat, they couldn't play in the reindeer games and whatnot. So when I would hear them talking about scary movies and movies that scared me, I'd want to prove my worth and check those movies out and prove that they didn't scare me. Well, as a little kid, the only really movies that I was subject to were Sunday morning Hammer films and like Godzilla and stuff like that, which, as you know, aren't very scary at all. And yeah, I can't remember how young I was, but I was single digits when I stayed up late to watch Halloween, and that was a game changer.
Yeah.
Halloween was an absolute game changer, and that scared me to my core. And I fell in love with the music. So that was kind of like a dual,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Couldn't get that music out of my head. It scared the ever loving hell out of me. And from Halloween, that got me into the slasher movies in the 80s, and I was a huge slasher movie fan in my early teens into my, well, I still am a slasher movie fan, especially 80s slasher movies.
Oh yeah, I like the
Um,
80s slasher movies too.
yeah, and I'm talking like I don't just like your Halloweens and your Friday the 13th and your prom nights and whatnot. I even like the little known ones like Final Exam and Sweet 16 and Curtains, the movie that the average horror movie fan might not have
Yeah,
checked
and you know
out.
who gets a lot of those movies now is freaking Screambox. Screambox gets a lot
Hmm,
of obscure slasher movies. I say
really? I have to
obscure,
check
but
them out.
yeah, they get a lot of 80s and 70s horror movies even.
Nice, nice.
So, but yeah, I have a little subscription. I think it's like $5 a month, but I'll peruse that too. But yeah, I'm like you. I'd like to watch all the slasher movies I could when I was a kid. Geez, what was the one with Linda Blair? Not, it's not The Exorcist, but it was
Oh yeah, Hell Night.
Hell
Hell Night.
Night. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
watched that a
yeah.
couple months ago, and that brought waves of memories back because I remember watching that as a kid. Love
Right,
that
right.
movie, man, and I forgot how much I loved it until I rewatched it. But
Yep. And
but
then when I got older, I got into the Italian slasher movies, giallo
yeah,
movies, especially Dario Argento. And when I started to watch Dario Argento, especially like Suspiria and Phenomena, um, they almost had a dreamlike quality to them,
yeah,
and I kind of liked that. And I started really kind of getting into movies that had a weird kind of alternate reality
right.
thing or dreamlike feeling to them. Not only your Nightmare on Elm Streets, which of course I love, but Cronenberg movies like Videodrome.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Videodrome is an example of a alternate reality, almost kind of hallucinatory movie, and I really kind of enjoy them.
yeah, yeah. For sure, man. That reminds me. You talk about alternate realities and different universes and things. I was perusing YouTube the other day, and a blast from the past hit me that I haven't seen in forever, and I may have to go back and try to find the film. It was a television series, and it started off as a movie, and it came out in like 1975 or 76. I was 6 or 7 years old, but it was Logan's Run. Have you ever?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that looked really cool.
Right, right.
And it brought back, I watched it as a kid and I never really watched it again. And I haven't seen it again to this day. But when I saw the little snippet and the remember who was in it and kind of the story, I'm like, man, I may have to revisit that because
Yeah.
and it was made in the 70s too, which is another plus. Just the way they filmed things back then was just, it was a
Yeah.
lot different. I'll put it
Oh,
that way.
absolutely,
But
absolutely.
but
They had to
yeah,
get really creative with how they shot things, especially alternate reality kind of stuff. You, I'm not taking anything away from CGI, but
I will
it is what it is.
sometimes. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it is what it is. It's computer graphics. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But back then you had to create that alternate reality from sets and build them, and
Well,
I don't know.
exactly. Stay in the sci-fi realm. Look at episodes 4, 5, 6 of Star Wars.
Yeah,
Uh, and to me, I enjoy those movies a lot better than I do the Disney versions or the Disney whatever you want to call them.
you
And
right. No flaws with
yeah,
that. I'm the same
and
way.
even the Lucas stuff in the late '90s, I enjoy those more than I do the Disney versions. Even the whatever they want to call them. Even though he got crazy with the CGI and those, but
Yeah,
4, 5, 6 OGs,
right, right.
untouched, because
Yep.
he went and fucked with them too later.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, he did.
Like we all saw what Anakin Skywalker looked like when he died,
Yep.
in Return of the Jedi. We all
Yeah,
saw what he looked
yeah.
like, and then
Yep.
you bring back the astral, freaking Darth Vader, in which movie was it? Which I guess it was Return of the Jedi, and you bring it back as the young Anakin, his astral projection or whatever you want to call it. I'm like, that doesn't seem right.
Nope. Nope. Agreed. I
Uh,
agree wholeheartedly.
but so over the last year or two, what movies have really caught your attention? I've seen a few that I've liked at the theater. I like the new Ty West movies with X and Pearl. I don't know if you've seen any of those.
No, no, I
He's got a
haven't.
third one called Maxine coming out. Evil Dead Rise came out last year. I don't know if you've got a chance to watch that, but I loved
Nope.
it. Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, what have you watched lately? Have you really watched anything, or have you been so busy making music and working on projects that you haven't had time to?
To be perfectly honest with you, I haven't watched as many movies as I normally have. I've been busy with music, my own music, um, trying different things, in case I get another project down the pike that calls for something different. I'll have
Okay.
something on hand and kind of a blueprint of how to go and where to go from that. Um, but movies, believe it or not, I've been revisiting more comedies than I have horror films.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, everything from the Three Amigos to you name it.
That's an old one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, sadly, no, I'd be lying to you if I said that I've been watching a lot of horror movies lately, and I don't want to do that.
Oh yeah. Well, the last comedy movie I rewatched was Step Brothers, and
Oh, nice, nice.
my wife hates that movie. I mean, it's so sophomoric, but hey,
I've been
uh,
watching a lot of Christopher Guest movies like Waiting for Guffman and Spinal Tap
yeah,
and Mighty Wind and stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Well, on the music front, you said you're working on some music. If it's
Yes.
stuff you can't really share too much about, don't share too much, but kind of give me an overview of what you're working on, if you can.
Yeah,
What projects are you
absolutely.
working on?
I just finished this thing up and put it on YouTube, called Galaxy Queen. And what that basically was about 8 songs that really didn't have homes. I just kind of wrote them to give myself something to do. I wrote them out of boredom, to be
Yeah, yeah.
perfectly honest with you. And wrote them out of boredom and decided to kind of put them all together and glue them all together and put it on YouTube. But then after I kind of listened to them on YouTube, I thought, you know what? There are 4 or 5 really good songs on this. If I built off of them, I could come up with another album. So that's what I've been doing is working on another album. And I'm happy to say that I'm nearly done it. The other thing I've been working on, a close friend of mine has sent me some vocals, and I'm working on music for him.
Oh, I wonder who that guy is.
Yeah, I wonder.
Oh man, while I was talking to you, I just flipped over to Galaxy Queen and just hit play just to hear the opening track, and yeah, that looks pretty cool. Tales of a Cyborg Pimp. Oh
Yeah.
my God. Yeah. I definitely want to hear that. Ladies in Orbit, Alien Breakdance, Wasteland Scoundrels, Space Sloth, It Came at Night, Love Letter to Pisces, I Am a Pisces, Saturn Dive Bar, Invaders, and Otherworldly. Wow, that's a lot, dude.
Yeah.
That's the whole album.
Yeah.
Well, I wish I'd have listened to this before I talked to you because I'd like to talk to you about some of these. What was the idea behind Tales of a Cyborg Pimp? I heard the opening just now, like the first
Okay,
two
so
beats.
the original title of that was Raimi's Waltz, and Raimi is not Sam Raimi, but my dog that I named after Sam Raimi. And when I got this dog, um, I walked him around the block the first day, and he had this waltz to him when he would walk. His ass would shake back and forth
Oh
like he
yeah.
owned the whole block. And I came home and just had this kind of funk in my head and was like, I got to do something with this. And wrote the riffs and everything, and then tried to write a funky drum beat to it. And by the time I was done it's kind of almost had a futuristic vibe to it. So instead of the Raimi's Waltz, which I didn't want people to think that I was naming it after Sam Raimi. It was named after my dog. I decided to change the title completely. And since it kind of had a little bit of a robotic feel, as you can hear, and he was walking my streets like he was a pimp, it became Tales of a Cyborg Pimp. And
Oh man.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's how the title came.
I literally just played like 2 seconds and I was already like, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well, I want to kind of go through this track list a little bit. I want to know the origins behind some of these titles
Sure.
because I'm going to listen to this entire thing as soon as we're done.
Sure,
Put
sure.
my headphones on. And guys, you can go to Ray Mattis's YouTube page and subscribe. If you look for Ray Mattis Galaxy Queen, it pulls up his YouTube page. You can hit the subscribe button, and he has this thing out there free for you to listen to. So we just talked about Tales of a Cyborg Pimp, Ladies in
Yeah.
Orbit. I want to listen to that, but what, like I said, I kind of want to get the origins of some of these names because they're interesting. How'd you come up with Ladies in Orbit?
Okay, Ladies in Orbit came up from the actual title Galaxy Queen. It was the actual title track. But
Okay.
as a musician, I just personally, and this is my own personal thing, am not a fan of title tracks because I think it sends the message to the listener that this is the best song on the track on the album, and it wasn't necessarily the case.
Well,
So
I
I
get
wanted
that.
something like a Galaxy Queen, and I thought of Ladies in Orbit, and I imagined a bunch of ladies almost in a 1950s sci-fi movie cruising the galaxy and the equivalent of a spacecraft convertible, and ladies in orbit. So there you go.
That's pretty cool, man. And again, I wish I'd listened to this before I talked to you today. Alien breakdance. I'm a kid of the 70s and 80s and was around during the breakdance phase. Tried to do it myself a little bit. Wasn't very good at it, but still tried with the other kids. I got a feeling this may have a hip hop kind of vibe to it, possibly.
Absolutely, absolutely. And instead of a crash cymbal, you'll hear the sound of breaking glass. So it's kind of like a double entendre, break dance, breaking glass. And
Ah,
yeah, I was a big fan of early hip hop. And I came up with that drum beat, and the bass drum and the snare kind of had an 80s feel to it, and wrote the song on top of it, and it was definitely funky, and you can definitely dance to it, and yeah, that's how that became.
yeah, I'm gonna be listening to this walking my dog. Yeah. After we get off, I gotta walk my dog, and I'm gonna pop this into my brand new headphones I got for my birthday. Thank you, my dear wife.
Nice.
It's not these. It's these pretty purple ones.
Oh,
They sound really really good. They're Skull Candies.
oh, nice,
I'm not
nice.
doing a commercial for Skull Candy, but they sound really good. So pop those in and listen to them. Wasteland Scoundrels. Oh man.
Yes.
We can go through these pretty quick if you want, but I just like the origin stories of these titles.
Oh, sure, for sure.
Yeah, the
Wasteland Candles.
titles intrigue me.
That song is well, they're all, I hope they're all different than one another and unique in their own way. But this
Yeah.
one kind of departs from the sound a little bit in that I use dirty guitars, ones that are lightly distorted, and it just feels like a grimy song. It feels dirty, and it made me feel dirty when I wrote it. And it's at a mid-tempo, so I just pictured your Han Solos of the universe walking into a bar with it.
Yeah. Well, you run into
Yeah,
Guido or whatever his name was.
yeah, yeah.
Who shot first?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Depends
Yeah.
on which version you watch, right?
Definitely shot first.
Didn't he fix it in a later release?
Yep. Yep. Where Greedo shot first. No, Han always shot first.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh well. Now I see Space Sloth. Does that mean it's a slow moving song?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's a very slow moving song. And I don't want to shoot myself in the foot here, but that song was a space filler. I wanted the album to run about 30 minutes,
Okay.
and I had a leftover song that really never went anywhere, and it's very slow and it's very methodical, and there's not much to it. It's very verse, chorus, and done.
And
Um,
you stuck it in the middle of the album basically. So
yeah, yeah.
that's probably a good spot for it. Now, the next one, I saw a movie called It Comes at Night or something like that. It was one of those found footage kind of films a couple of years ago, came out, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago.
Hmm.
But you have a song here called It Came at Night. And
Yeah.
that's not what the movie's called exactly, but it's something like that. Uh is this has been a scary feeling? Is it something ominous that
Yes,
comes at night?
yes, it's the one of the only songs, one of two songs, that and Invaders, that was written in a minor key. So it definitely has a little bit of a darker edge to it. And as you can tell, all the titles are space themed
Oh yeah.
some way, shape, or form. So instead of saying like the monster comes at night or the creature, I just kept it at it comes at night. So it could be an alien coming at night. And
Well, technically, I think was it an alien? I can't remember,
I can't remember either.
but I know the thing was. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I am a Pisces, so you wrote a love letter to all of us Pisces people.
Yep, yep. My wife is a Pisces, so that was my love letter to her. There's no drums in that, and it's just done on guitars.
Okay, cool,
So,
man.
it's only a minute and a half long, but it's some of my best guitar work.
Well, yeah, again, I'm gonna seriously be listening to this after the podcast. I love these titles. Saturn Dive Bar. So I don't know
Yeah.
what to make out of this from the title. It could be a beer drinking honky tonk alien song. I don't know. Uh, who knows?
Yeah, Saturn Dive Bar came when my wife and I were sitting in our living room and talking about how cluttered it was and how we needed to clean up. And we were drinking wine together. And
Okay.
I was playing this CD, and it wasn't titled yet. It didn't have a title. And my wife remarked how she really liked the song, and it was one of her favorites on there. And I just remembered that, and we were drinking, and our living room was cluttered, so it became Saturn Dive Bar, and that's how the title came about.
Nice.
Admittedly, it doesn't sound too much like a dive bar, but that's where the title came from.
Okay, cool. Well, it's good to know. Now, the next title automatically reminds me of when I was a kid sitting in front of my Atari 2600. You know, you had Space Invaders with everywhere at the arcades, but Atari had their own version of Space Invaders, and I can remember the
Yeah.
drone of the aliens coming down and getting a little bit. So, do we have that vibe in this song?
It is the fastest song on there,
Okay.
and it definitely has more of an old school, I don't want to say techno feel because that's doing it a great disservice, to be honest with you. But it kind of shies away from the hip hop and the break beats that the rest of the album has. It's more of a boom clack, boom clack, boom clack, boom, instead of boom bop, ba dum
Gotcha.
boom bop. Yeah.
Gotcha. And
Yeah.
we rounded out with a song called Otherworldly. And you do have a note at the bottom that, you know, 4 of these tracks previously appeared on your EP, Phantasmagoria. I hope
Yep.
said that right.
Yep.
Um, but with that said, Otherworldly, I haven't heard any of these, so I'm definitely going to check them out. Otherworldly, what kind of is it like a, uh, I don't know. I'll let you describe what it's about, but I don't know what kind of feeling
It kind of
Otherworldly
speaks for
captures.
itself. It kind of, um, yeah, it kind of speaks for itself. It's otherworldly. I don't know how else to explain it other than a one word title.
Gotcha.
Um, that's just kind of how I felt. Um, I pictured other worlds and how the environments might be when I thought of the title and was listening to it, and there it is.
Well, there you have it, folks. He
Yeah.
has
Sorry, I don't have a better story for
no,
that
you're
title.
good. You have Galaxy Queen. It was released recently. It was released last month. So guys, go check it out on YouTube. I don't know if you have it available on Bandcamp or anywhere they can plop some shells down for it, but uh, right now I see you can listen to it for free on YouTube. So go subscribe to Ray's channel and check out, you know, everything he has out there because he's got it going on. That's all I can say.
Thank you.
So getting back to some of your movie and TV production work,
Yeah.
and we know that you've just done a Western, and I know that um, John O. Dalton
Mhm.
directed a movie with Iabu, Smart House. Did you do the music for that one?
Yes, I did.
Okay, good, because that would be embarrassing if you didn't, because I want to ask about it. I love the soundtrack of that film too. I watched it on Tubi. I don't know if they've have a DVD release of that one quite yet, but I love the setting and the feel that you set with that movie. Tell me what
Right.
went into and guys, go watch Smart House if you can. I think you can still find it on Tubi. Um, but tell me how you were approached for that project, and then what went into creating that the soundtrack for that film.
Well, Henrik brought the film to me and asked me if I'd do the soundtrack, and I said sure. And he kind of briefly over Facebook told me what it was about. And when he told me, I kind of got the feeling that it felt almost like a technology run amok
Hmm.
kind of movie. And there was a band that I'm into. They don't record too much anymore. They're still around, a band called KMFDM. And Henrik and I both share a love for KMFDM, and KMFDM has a very industrial edge to him, very industrial edge. So I asked Henrik, I remember asking him, well, can I go KMFDM on your ass with this? And he was like, yes, please. So when I wrote the soundtrack, that's exactly what I kind of wanted it to sound like. I wanted it to sound like my music was a technology running amok.
Well, yeah, you did a great job, and I want to give a shout out to Iabu. She was on the podcast last year, and she did a phenomenal job playing the lead in that movie.
Yeah,
Um, it's kind of hard, I would think, as an actor to kind of just be alone. I mean,
yeah,
she was alone for most of the runtime of that film, and
yeah.
she did a really good job conveying the emotions she needed to convey, and the fear she needed to convey, and but I loved having her on last year.
Yeah, Smart House was a lot of fun to write. Um, I got to also, it's in the beginning of the film, actually. You can hear it when she kind of investigates through the house when she hears the noise. I got to write that music in a 5/4, which to the layman out there that doesn't know music, most rock and roll music, most music that you listen to on the radio is in a 4/4. 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, bop, boom, boom, bop, boom, bop, boom, bop.
Right.
But a 5/4 adds an extra beat. The best example of music written in a 5/4 is John Carpenter's Halloween theme. That extra beat makes it feel off. It throws off the natural rhythm of the body. It throws everything off. So I was delighted that I got to write something in a 5/4, and that seems to be a piece of music that sticks with people through it. I've heard from a couple of friends of mine and a couple of people that have watched the movie
Well,
that
you
said that
taught
they
me something today, the difference between a 5/4 and a 4/4. I listen to a lot of music, but I'm not a musician, so to learn some of the technical aspects of it is always great. So
yeah.
oh, my little extra light went off over here. So whoever's watching this may have just seen a big bright light just pop up on
Yeah.
my face. But yeah, man, that everything I've heard you do has been top notch. What has been so far out of everything you've done, movies, television, what has been your favorite project that you've worked on? And maybe you don't have one favorite, but maybe you have a couple that you really like and that stick out.
Yeah, I take my opening themes and my closing themes very seriously. Um, it's the only time in the film where you get to write almost a song, because credits usually can run from anywhere from a minute and a half to 2 minutes and a half. So you're writing something that's more than just string swells and more than just a guitar chord playing for mood.
Right.
Um, so my favorite theme songs that I've done was Jesse James Unchained and Weekly
Which you
Spooky
can purchase at henflix.com.
and Weekly Spooky. Now I also with Jesse James, that's also my favorite soundtrack that I did. It was the most challenging soundtrack that I ever had to do. like I said, I kind of had to reteach myself music and kind of write out of my comfort zone, so to speak. And I enjoy a challenge. I enjoy a good challenge.
Yeah,
Um,
I can't say enough good things about that soundtrack. It really did set the mood, and I really enjoyed that movie. And so when it was available on DVD, I had to pick it up and put it in the collection. But anyway, I didn't mean
yeah.
to cut you off.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. And just Weekly Spooky was one of the few things that I wrote that sounded exactly like I heard it in my head and how I wanted it to sound. Exactly. I little secret here. 98% of the music that I write doesn't quite sound like it did in my head or how I wanted it to sound. It's the truth. It's the truth. But Weekly Spooky was that came out exactly how I wanted it to be.
Well, I'll tell you, speaking from an author's perspective, these
Mm,
never come out the way that I think they're going to come out in my brain.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yep.
yeah, man. Well, the
Yeah,
weekly.
usually I'll listen to something that I've done and go, oh, I wish now, like 2 years, 3 years later, I wish I did this instead, or I wish I did that instead. I wish I did use this tone, or I wish I used that tone. Not with Weekly Spooky. That thing still holds up to this day when I listen to it. Still
Dude,
makes me.
I mean, it's catchy. It stays with you. When you hear that opening, when you hear the opening, you know exactly what it is, especially if you're a listener and if you listen to it every week and check it out, it's very, very good. It
Yeah.
really is.
And if you want to hear a longer version of it, you can listen to the longer version on my YouTube page. I have a tab, I think it's called soundtracks. I can't even remember, but you get the gist. It's under there, and you can listen to a longer version of it if you'd like.
Yeah, I'm on your YouTube page. You can click on videos and it kind of lists out all the videos you have. And guys, Ray actually did a song for Elena and I when we first started the Horror 421 podcast, if I can even talk today. Uh Dr. Deranged Love, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love This Podcast. So that was pretty awesome. He kind of caught us out of the blue with that one, but uh we really enjoyed that. So we still appreciate that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can go find the weekly spooky extended theme right on Ray's YouTube channel. Just go look for Ray Mattis. I typed Mattis Galaxy Queen and it took me right to his YouTube page. I just subscribed under my Backstage 421 um, YouTube login. I think I'm already subscribed under the other. So go listen, subscribe, and check it out. He's got even has a Scarecrow County opening credits on here, the extended cut, which was a film by John Oak Dalton, if I'm not mistaken. Please correct
Yes.
me if I am. I think that he did that one.
No, he did. He did.
And I really enjoyed that movie too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how were you approached on that one? Very similar to the other movies.
Very
Is it?
similar to the other movies. Very similar to the other movies, and that was a pretty easy movie to score. That was one of the easier ones that I had. I could tell when the music cues needed to come. It was, yeah. It was very well edited together, to where I could tell exactly where music was needed. Excuse me.
Yeah, well, you've done a shit ton of music for these movies, man. Ouija Room, I have that in the collection. Wow. Every time I look at what you've done, it amazes me because you've done so much. Um, are you working on, I don't know I haven't spoken to Henrik about what he's working on right now. Do you have any soundtracks in the works? You got
No.
anybody pitching you any ideas?
I finished up a couple months back, Babysitter Massacre 3.
Mm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I got to do the soundtrack for that.
I haven't
And
even seen Babysitter Massacre 2 yet, so we're talking about
right.
3 already.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's 2 and a 3. I finished up Babysitter Massacre 3, and the absolute delight that I had doing that was I got to play heavy metal. So I got to dust off my metal chops. And that's something that's in the works. I kind of fully fleshed out about 5 or 6 metal songs. And
Nice.
once the movie's released, I'm going to post them on my YouTube page, but that won't be for some time because they're still got to do Babysitter Massacre 2 yet. It kind of went out of order from what I understand.
Okay. Well, again, I really haven't
How they shot it.
talked to
Yeah.
Henrik a lot about that. He was on the podcast. His episode just released a couple days ago or yesterday. What day is it? Is it Tuesday? Friday.
Yeah,
It was released this past Friday. It's all these days running together, man. Oh man. Well, you've told us a couple really good stories in the past, and you preceded this before the podcast started to say you don't have any, security stories like you had with the
Right.
my ass.
So, yeah,
That one will never leave my brain. That was amazing. We're not going to rehash it here, listeners, but the other two podcasts that I've had Ray on, he told it on both, and they're both equally as funny. So make sure if you haven't heard those stories, go back and listen to them. You have to, because they were the highlights of the podcast for sure. Hilarious. But before we end the podcast today, I just want to give you an opportunity. If there's another story in your brain that stuck out that you haven't shared, you certainly can. If you can't think of anything, that's okay too. But and it's hard to top that one. You
yeah,
should.
it's really hard to top that.
That one was way up here.
Yeah. I don't have anything that will top that. But I have shorts, if you will.
Okay.
Shorts. One of the shopping malls that I work security at, that was actually my first security job. And when I got hired, I had my boss's name was Anthony, and he was a retired Philly cop. And he said to me, once I was done training and everything was on my own for the first time in this mall, he said that they had this saying around the precinct that he worked at, that the first call you get will dictate how the rest of your career goes.
Oh no.
So if your first call is somebody getting hit by a truck, well, you're going to have a very bumpy career. But if your first call is, helping an old lady cross the street, then
Smooth sailing.
It's smooth sailing. So I was walking around the mall, and my badge number was 29, and dispatch called and said, "Dispatch to 29. We need you to report to the guest store. Guess. For a report of a disturbance."
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And I'm like thinking to myself, well, disturbance could be a lot of things. So I keyed up and was like, could you be a little more specific? And when they keyed back up, I could hear laughing in the background. And she said, yeah, they have a man in the store who's acting like a robot and he won't stop. And I was like, what? And sure as hell, I walked in the store, and there's all these people, the employees standing there, and they're all going like this. And I look over, and there's this man walking around the store like a robot. And I walked up to him, and I was like, "Excuse me, sir." And he turned around, he's like, "Yes, officer." And I was just like, oh, "Sir, I can't have you acting like a robot inside here, but if you step outside the store, you can act like a robot all you want." And he was like, "Thank you, officer," and walked out the store like a robot. And that, like I said, is not a funny story, but that's how the rest of my career
That
went.
is a pretty good story, because today, in this day and age, he can identify as a robot and walk anywhere he wants.
Yeah, there you go. So while it's not a hilarious story like the other one that I told, it definitely was true that's how my career went. It's just a lot of weird things happening and a lot of funny incidents. Nope.
Well, the my ass story was great, and that's what I call it in my mind now. My
Yeah.
ass. And then you had the other one that you told on the horror podcast that was also great. I think it was the Easter Bunny story.
Yeah, pepper sprayed. Yep.
Yep.
Same mall, by the way. So
So-
there you go. That's how my career went.
So if you want to hear the Easter Bunny story, you need to go back to season 1 of Horror 421, the podcast. Elena's on there with me, so you get to see her. beautiful self and I talked to Ray, and he has us both in stitches with those two stories. And the My Ass story was so great, I had to have him tell it again last year on Backstage 421, the podcast, because telling it one time wasn't enough. I'm not going to put him through telling it a third time because it's out there twice already. So if you really want to hear it, you can go hear it. But Ray, man, I really enjoyed having you on again.
Yep,
It's
same
always
here.
it's
Thank you.
always a pleasure talking to you. If there's anything you want to put out there right now, I'm going to be quiet. Promote yourself. Tell everyone where they can find you. If you have stuff out there that they can pick up, just let the listening audience know. And I'll be quiet.
Yep, best place to find me is on YouTube. Like Charles said, just search my name, Ray Mattis. That's M as in Michael, Attis. You'll find my page. I have 3 full-length albums out there and a bunch of little EPs that range from different styles. So if one style of music isn't your thing, then another one might be. Everything from electrical, or rather electronic rock and roll music, to industrial music, to soon to be jazz will be up there. I'm going to put some jazz up there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I will add, Ray talked about it for a second. I'm doing like something fun for a musician that I like. So I sent him some cruddy vocals of me doing a couple things, but he's going to put some beats or something behind it, and I'm going to share it with that musician that I like, and we'll see how it goes. Hopefully
Yeah.
it will be received well. It's all in fun because I really like her music.
And that's my other news, was that's what I did today before this interview, was I finished mixing it.
Oh,
So
nice.
after this interview, you will be receiving it in your email.
Oh, that's an even bigger bonus, buddy. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Well, you're gonna have a world premiere because I'm gonna put that shit on freaking Instagram and tag you, and I'll tag. Are you on Instagram? I need to go back
No,
and
I'm
look.
not.
Okay.
No,
Well, I'll
I
tag you
gotta
on
be.
I'll tag you on Facebook. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'll put it out there. I was gonna put a little image behind it and all that stuff. But I appreciate that, Ray.
Yeah, no problem. No
It's pretty
problem. I
pretty
appreciate
cool.
the work. I love it.
Well, I always enjoy talking to Ray. He always has something cool to say. And man, I'm definitely gonna have you back on. And you're I think you're the only guest. No, well, technically you're not, but in what I call the modern era of the Backstage 421 podcast, you're the first hybrid guest that's meant to be a hybrid guest. So he's going to be on Backstage 421 and Horror 421. Going to premiere 1 week apart. It's going to be the same episode, same podcast, but have different episode numbers for the respective podcast it's going to be on. I know none of that shit made sense that I just blurted out, but whatever. Anyway, thanks again, Ray, man. I appreciate
thank
it.
you for having me. It's been so much fun. I enjoy this tremendously. I hope you have me on again.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely have you on again. So guys, that will end it for this week's episode of Backstage 421 / Horror 421, the podcast. Thank you. We'll see you next time. Oh, before I really end, see, I fooled you. You can find me at valleyboypublications.com. All my social media links are there. I'll keep it short and sweet. You can go buy a book from me if you'd like. And you can find Horror 421 the podcast on Facebook and Backstage 421 the podcast on Facebook. And that's it. I'm really done now. You guys have a good night, rest of your week. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Backstage 421, the musicians only podcast. Be sure to tune in for the next episode. Please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Listener support links can be found below. Thank you for your support.